Well, after the Election Commission of India publishes data on electoral bonds, opposition takes on the central government. Now, opposition says that electoral bonds is nothing but a legalized extortion and formalized kickbacks. Now, like demonetization, the scheme has been designed by the office of PM Modi, and the senior bureaucrats are too scared to speak their mind. The result is that India is on its path to becoming an Asian autocracy. So these are the digs coming in from the opposition leaders on the electoral bonds after the data was being published. Now, let's take a look at some of the political reactions on this report.
देखिए, मैं उस पर अभी एक विश्लेषण मैंने किया है, अगले 10-15 मिनट में निकलवा रहा हूँ, आपको सारी जानकारी मिल जाएगी किस तरीके से ये इलेक्टोरल बॉन्ड का दुरुपयोग किया गया है। 60% इलेक्टोरल बॉन्ड सिर्फ बीजेपी को गए हैं, 60%, 60% बीजेपी को गया है। और मैंने दिखाया है इस विश्लेषण के द्वारा कि किस तरह से ईडी, सीबीआई, इनकम टैक्स का दुरुपयोग किया है, और जिन्होंने चंदा दिया है उनको कहाँ से कॉन्ट्रैक्ट मिले हैं, हाईवे के कॉन्ट्रैक्ट मिले हैं, टनल के धंधे मिले हैं, और कोई प्रोजेक्ट मिला है, तो ये सब मिली भगत है।
Well, these are the latest inputs that we've been getting on the electoral bonds. Opposition leaders have been taking a dig at the central government, and according to the latest inputs, after the Election Commission of India had published data on the electoral bonds, opposition has taken on the central government. Now, a lot of opposition leaders have come to foray criticizing this move, and opposition has said that electoral bonds is nothing but a legalized extortion and formalized way of kickbacks. Now, like demonetization, this scheme has been designed by the office of PM Modi. This is yet another pot shot taken by the opposition leaders. Now, the senior bureaucrats are too scared to speak their mind. So, the result is that India is on its path to becoming an Asian autocracy. So these are the latest inputs that we are getting in, and these are the kind of statements that the opposition leaders are making. Remember, according to the Supreme Court of India, the Election Commission was supposed to publish the entire data on their website before 5 p.m. on 15th of March, but they have been able to successfully publish all of the data and provide all of the highlights on this electoral bond data very well in advance. So these are the latest inputs that we've been tracking, and the complete list of donors on who contributed how much to which party has also been released on the official website of the Election Commission. Now, the Election Commission on Thursday uploaded the entire data of electoral bonds on its website 2 days after it actually received the details from the State Bank of India. Now, joining us on the broadcast is our colleague Pallavi. A very good morning, Pallavi. Can you take us through the highlights of all of the data that has been published on the Election Commission's website?
So first of all, it was the Supreme Court which had stepped in, and the Supreme Court had said that the electoral bonds details which are available with the State Bank of India will have to be put out in a public space, and a deadline was given, and that data would also then have to be uploaded on the Election Commission of India website. That deadline ends today, but just a day before the deadline ended, the data was already put up by the SBI, and if you just look at it, it shows every political party which has purchased and could receive the electoral bonds from many in the corporate sector. So that kind of transparency which the electoral bond system wanted to bring around in 2019 seems to have been achieved. But that doesn't stop politics from being played out. But what top government sources have been consistently telling us is that one of the main reasons why you began the electoral bonds was you had to ensure that no one was parking the dark money or black money through giving these political donations. And that's why this entire idea of purchasing electoral bonds was made, so that you know where the money is coming in from, who's buying the electoral bonds. But there was a rider that confidentiality would be maintained, which is the ones who are giving it, they are the ones who should not be, their name should not be revealed. There is a certain concern within the government sector on 2 points. One, that confidentiality clause seems to have been breached. And second, this is the year end. 31st March is the day when the financial year ends, Kurina.
Right.
The SBI as a nodal bank in our country is very busy with many other work of closing on the papers. And now to put this pressure on them is unfair to the people who are working and associated with the SBI.
Right, Pallavi, I'll request you to stay with us on the broadcast as we have another correspondent joining us on the broadcast, Arun. A very good morning, Arun. Could you please provide some insights into how political parties have been responding to the detailed data on the electoral bonds? And is there any kind of a reaction coming in from the centre?
Well, see, we all saw yesterday that Election Commission putting out the details on their website, which they got from the SBI, and in fact, post that we are seeing that opposition parties are actually taking on the central government. The source-based information, of course, which we are picking up from the government side, is that in fact, which SBI has also maintained in the Supreme Court, that the entire law, when it was brought in 2018, the secrecy, non-disclosure was something which was the top priority. And on the basis of that, the law was framed, and also, of course, the SBI followed the guidelines. Now, on the Supreme Court's order, the list, in fact, has been put out for everyone to see. But of course, the government sources are saying that it is actually against the clause under which these businessmen have bought the bond. So there has not been much clarity as of now. There has not been much statement from the BJP side on this. But of course, opposition parties are really up in arms against the central government. And of course, the data is so exhaustive. The point which SBI raised in the court is that it is not going to be easy for them to actually match the entire data starting from 2018 to till 2024. So it's even if you go through the details of that list, even in one day you have 200 to 250 bond which had been bought. So
right.
How to match that data? It's an exhaustive exercise, and that's the point on which SBI was asking for the extra time when they asked court to actually give them time till about 30th of June.
Right, Arun. Like you rightly said, the data is pretty extensive, and there is a list of 213, over and above 213 donors. But let me cut across to Pallavi once again. Pallavi, how do we see foresee the impact of the release of detailed data on electoral bonds purchase, having one on the transparency and the accountability in the political funding in near future?
Well, I mean, the whole idea of electoral bonds was essentially to ensure that there is transparency, that, no one surreptitiously gives a political donation, and that often is a worry that this could actually be used to park the black money, and that's the entire idea of 2019. Well, what top government sources have been telling us post this verdict coming in from the Supreme Court is that the entire purpose will now seem to be defeated, because those who had to bought those bonds, they will also possibly now get disclosed about who are the companies who the bonds were bought from. But more importantly, now it's an open game. And the timing is very unfortunate. It's coming very close to Lok Sabha elections. There are concerns which are being raised in some states regarding some states like Punjab, like Tamil Nadu, where there seems to be a large amount of, to give an example, Koina, the drugs also becoming rampant. There's a worry in the government sector that will this drug money or the drug cartel use it to divert their money in the name of giving political donations to a political party. That's certainly one concern. You're asking me about political parties. Well, it's there for all to see. Since morning, we have been seeing reactions coming in from all opposition parties. And they are, of course, systematically attacking the BJP, completely forgetting that many of these parties themselves have received electoral bonds.
Right, Pallavi, but help me understand. A very interesting question that I have is, how might the disclosure of the companies buying electoral bonds influence the public perception, especially in the run-up to the Lok Sabha elections?
Well, I mean, these political parties who are making these insinuations, for example, the opposition, opposition parties, whether it's the Congress or the TMC or the Uddhav Thavre Shik Sena, they are trying to find a correlation between whether there is any quid pro quo. Was there some benefits which was given by the BJP to these parties which supplied those bonds? Was there some kind of a pressure on them to give the money to the BJP? That's the kind of a pattern which the opposition parties are trying to establish, but much of that may not be completely correct, because if you look at the data which has been put up on the Election Commission, it has two parts, and one part is about the donors and the second, of course, has the recipients. There's no correlation between the companies and the bonds which have yet been established, and that is always going to be a grey area. And since it's a grey area, it's always going to be open to interpretation, the way you want to do it. And that's where I think the politics will come in, and that's where the perception is going to be built up by the opposition parties against the BJP.
Right, Pallavi, I'll request you to stay with us on the broadcast as Arun Dhanta also continues to stay with us on the broadcast. Arun, help us understand what are the key arguments put forward by the government sources regarding, one, the inability of matching the year-end data and the time pressure faced by the SBI.
Well, as Pallavi rightly pointed out, the opposition parties are raising this point whether there is any quid pro quo in this entire matter. Whether some of the companies who have bought these bonds had any linkages with the government, whether they were under any pressure of the investigating agencies and therefore they have bought those bonds. So these are the details which will of course take time, and that was of course the point which SBI was raising. The entire data of starting from 2018 to 2014 is huge, and therefore it is very difficult to match the data and the denomination with the company's name. So therefore now at this moment, till the time we don't have the clarity on this part, of course opposition parties will not spare the government on this front. We'll also of course have to wait for some sort of clarity from the government side on this. But of course ever since these details have emerged on the Election Commission's website, we are seeing that how opposition parties are collectively coming out. They are finding out the details of all these companies and putting it on social media. But of course, the reality is that it is not only the BJP who has got these funds, but also the other opposition parties. If you see the list of the recipients in this, BJP of course is at the top. Then you have the TMC, Congress party. So all these, even the regional parties, they all are part of this list which has been put out by the Election Commission on their website.
Thank you so much for bringing in all those details.